for Twitch to accept it.
I haven't seen the videos on Twitch.
Twitch has accepted the stream. Now we're waiting for YouTube to accept it. YouTube has accepted it. Now we're going to wait for Facebook to accept it.
Okay.
Facebook has accepted the stream. Now, there's a little switch in front of you, Deidra, that says on the air.
Okay, gotcha.
Flip that. Let's wait for the red light to go on. Okay, now there's a clapboard in front of you on the table. Put that in front of your face, and when you hit the clapboard, you're on the air.
Peace and love. You are now listening to Talking Peace. I am your host, Deidra EmEl, Executive Director of the Western New York Peace Center. And today we have some wonderful guests, David Jonathan and Paul Cameron of...
David Jonathan and the Inner City Bedlam.
And the Inner City Bedlam. Thank you so much. And today we're going to talk about musical connections to social justice. And so thank you so much for being here with me. I am very excited about listening to your music and just, connecting with it all. Being a dancer myself, it's just, music is so important and the arts are so important for the movement. And so I wanted to first make sure we give thanks. We always start off our show with just giving thanks for the earth, giving thanks for just the people, within the earth. We give thanks for the birds and the trees and the rivers and the waters. We give thanks for, just the Great Lakes, for clean water. We give thanks for our mountains and our valleys, for our green grasses, for our food that, that comes abundantly. We like to, just give thanks for the insects and for the animals. And if we just connect to our environment, to the real world, I call it, to nature, we'll be the better still for that. So, we give thanks in in the tradition of the Haudenosaunee and African traditions, and giving thanks before we get started with anything. So in the Haudenosaunee tradition, after we give thanks, we say Nyawe, and the audience will say Nyo.
No.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to start off with is, what values do you bring to our conversation today? What do you want people to remember, to take away from this conversation today?
What I want people to take away from the conversation is that there's still messages in the music, and that there's a lot of space between 1 and 2.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Paul?
I would say the same, except that for once, I think we have someone who can be a true, like the new leader of the message in the music. Because what he does, it brings back the essence of, like, I would say the 70s.
Okay.
So bringing back soul music.
Okay. All right. And, speaking of, bringing back the music, what type of music, do you do?
I would definitely call it soul, as if I had to give it a genre specific.
Yes.
Soul, but what does that encompass? To me, that's encompassing elements of jazz.
Yes.
That's going down Louisiana and giving you elements of Zydeco.
Okay.
That's giving you R&B. That gives you the structure of everything that feels good, and that's also painful.
Okay.
Because without the pain, we can't learn to heal. So
right.
To me, that's all in the soul.
And all in the soul. That's right. Well, I'm excited to hear your music today, and so we'll be playing just snippets of your music as we talk. And I think the values that I bring to the table today, and I want people to remember, is that, like Paul said, that the music today isn't dead yet. We have lots of life in it, and we just have to search for it. And I tell you that there's a lot of, I won't say the word I want to use, but it's a lot of nonsensical music that's out there right now that doesn't have a real message for change and for transformation.
Right.
And that's what I look for, and I look for my son. He's a teen, and I look for, for other young people. We need to have, help them find those connections
Right.
to real messages. It reminds me back in the day, and this is not necessarily when hip hop first came out, because we know it came out before the 90s, but this is like when it became more popular, right? Became more mainstream.
Yes.
Right.
And I just, when I think back and I listen, back, a lot of hip hop had a lot of good message.
Right.
You had some of the, just for fun or party, but a lot of it was really, someone had a voice and they had a message to bring, and, and they wanted it, to come, with a great beat and change people's lives.
Yes.
I think a lot of, the majority of that, majority of the hip hop was like that. And I really appreciate that, growing up. As Paul and I was talking about earlier, Paul known me since I was like 13 years old.
Yes,
Well, I'm not
I
telling
have.
your age.
Well, I'm just older than you.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, I think I'm like 12 years older than you.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that works for me.
Yeah. And as a teacher, and, when I'm growing up, I'm thinking about, leaders of the new school and now the names won't come to me, but just all the so-called conscious, rappers, and like how much they really helped me to stay in tuned.
See, that's funny because the lot of rappers you're talking about, they're like all my age. And
Yes.
we all grew up
Yeah.
in the 70s era, like late 60s, 70s era. We're all influenced by Curtis Mayfield,
Right.
Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind, and Fire,
Yes.
Parliament.
Messages.
People understand that there were a lot of messages. So, and the Mac. Come on, help me.
What's his name?
Yeah. I hate to forget my man's name, but all these musicians had messages. But I think that was the time to, I mean, because you can even refer to even rock music, because folk music
Yeah.
was really the storytellers.
Right.
That was
Like, I
big
love
in the
80s
70s.
rock. Yeah.
So I think we were all affected by that stuff. So then when it came the time to do something, like EmEl decided he wanted to do something besides bomb, diggy, bomb, diggy, diggy, dang, diggy, dang.
Yeah.
Besides doing that, let me do something that's going to resonate with my people, that can make changes,
Right.
because our voices aren't heard, and this would be the perfect time for the world to hear us.
Exactly. So, how did you get started? So, David, you're the musician,
Yes, he
Yes.
is.
right? And Paul,
I'm the manager.
you're the
Paul's
manager.
the head.
Okay. He's
Paul's the head.
I'm the
We
man
call him
behind the man.
Baba Tunde.
all right now. Make it rain, make it sing.
Come on, Baba Tunde.
So,
Yes.
how did you get started?
I started like a lot of musicians did in church. My parents were very involved in church. My mom was an evangelist, and then she became a pastor.
Okay.
And my aunt had also became a pastor. We weren't a part of a big organization church. We were part of an outreach ministry.
Okay.
That was like a storefront corner. But in those storefront corner spaces, you would get all types of people.
Yes, you will.
And it made it very colorful, but then you realize how many people in your community were in pain, or they were suffering from things going on, whether it was addiction, whether it was they used to run the streets, and but I was literally 4 years old, and remembering these things happening, and remember these specific encounters, at church where you would see somebody come in who, was absolutely drunk, and, like out of their mind drunk.
Right.
And my aunt would say, go on and get on that piano. And, you know, I would get on and go through songs, but, you know, you would see people, if even not for the spiritual, it's like the music would calm the savage beast.
Said comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, people would walk out and, you know, and sometimes some people we saw again and some people you never saw again, but, you know, for that evening they had peace.
Right.
And that early on in my life, I realized that music was a healing agent, you know.
Most
and
definitely.
My mom and my father both instilled that in me and encouraged that and watered that, you know. So that's where I really started. Eventually I would, you know, come into learning how to read drum music, and I just was fascinated with all types of instruments. I just wanted to touch everything that I could, because I was just fascinated with music and what it did.
Okay.
You know, not even just the technical, but what it made you feel, you know. And our home was surrounded with music. We didn't even have a TV in the living room. You know, we had a sound system with 6 speakers.
All right.
So every time you walk down, whether
Send
it's
a child
to
in the
get
way
to
you
the
should
kitchen,
go.
you're going to hear music. You know, you could hear it coming down the street. You know, you knew that you were passing our house
Yes.
because we were playing something. You know, so that really helped me to
Nice.
establish a love relationship with music that has never and will never end.
Beautiful. And how did the actual band get started?
Now the band, interesting enough, the band started out of my frustration with the local music scene.
Okay.
In 2015, I started on this path of I am a king, and I'm going to be kingly, and I'm going to, you know, I'm gonna set the world on his ear, and I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna do my music. I had already done a lot of projects for people as side projects, but I started realizing I came back to Buffalo in 2012, and I realized that, you know, I saw all these cover bands, and which is fine, you know.
What
of
is a
course.
cover band?
Cover band is a band that will go ahead and take the same music that you like and play it over. You know,
okay.
like so.
Okay.
You know, you like James Brown, you know, a Sex Machine. Then
They'll
we're
play
gonna do
it.
Sex
Yeah.
Machine, take you to
Okay.
the bridge,
Uh-huh.
and everybody loved it and have a good time. But after doing that scene for a while, I'm like, wow, people are still doing the same songs, and I longed for something original, and I started my own band in 2017, 2018, which was the beginning of David Jonathan and Inner City Bedlam, because everybody
Okay.
already knew me as Teaspoon as a nickname.
Okay.
And Teaspoon was just a childhood nickname, and I got tired of that because I wanted people to know me for my own work.
Yes.
And although that got me far, I wanted to go farther. I ended up getting booked to an event at a venue in Buffalo that we will remain nameless, and I was doing songs like The Optimistic, you know, you can win as long as you keep, you know,
Yes.
and stuff like that. And it was real empowering, people jamming.
Yes.
But then I noticed everybody changed when I did Gil Scott-Heron, The Revolution Not Be Televised.
Okay.
And the immediate visceral reaction forced people to walk out of the show.
Really?
And I was, you know, up to that point, I was like, oh, wow, so how can I entertain you with Sex Machine? And I could take you to the bridge on that, on James Brown, but I can't take you to the bridge on Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. I have a problem with that. And so I basically just, you know, I put my whole career at risk because everything I had done up to that point, like I said, was a sideman project. At that point, I decided I have a responsibility now. Either I'm going to continue to do this music knowing that you're not going to feel some type, or that you're going to feel some type of way about it, or I'm just going to quit. So
Okay.
I everybody's like, no, you're going to mess up your money, and you'll never play in this town again. And it was a risk, but I went on and took it because I realized that the message that needs to be put out for music, it's not being received. Or you can't tell me that I can't do this song in my mom's neighborhood in this gentrified space is literally a stone's throw. You know, where she grew up seeing things that she told me about and things that I witnessed in my own neighborhoods. But in these spaces, you're taking over and you want to hear this. You only tell me to play this because you want to be entertained.
Right.
But you don't want the entertainment to tell you the truth.
Now, do you have a sample of? Well, I know they're all good samples of that, but would you like to play
Yes.
one of those songs that kind
Sure.
of exemplify that?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we'll start with Jacobs Blake. And just to give you a little setup for Jacobs Blake, Jacobs Blake was instrumental, of course, talking about Jacob Blake, who was shot by police officers in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of everything that occurred there, he was he unfortunately he wasn't the first. But all of the headlines that were going on with coronavirus and then you're starting to hear about George Floyd and all these other things going on. I basically gave it his name, Jacobs Blake.
Wow. Okay.
And so you'll get to see this is more instrumental than it is lyrical, but it tells a story within itself.
Beautiful. Let's hear it.
This new and until now unknown virus has killed 4,500 or infected 125,000 around the world. The outbreak of coronavirus is now undeniably a global crisis and is now officially...
Before he returned from Mar-a-Lago last night, the president called it a complete and total exoneration.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And the president has asked the FBI to launch a very concerted effort against gangs everywhere.
I just want to tell you that America is the greatest place on earth.
Wow. Wow. That's all I can say is wow. That is incredible. I think that without saying much, you have said so much to make people think,
Yeah.
and putting it, to music. Music, does so much to our brain waves, and help us to remember, things and make connections. And, this is, is very creative.
Yeah.
You hear that, before as far as, you have talked before, and you play the music kind of thing, people start rapping, But I like how you mix the jazz and points in the media.
It's a soundtrack.
Right, okay.
How do you illustrate, or what's the prologue to what this sounds like?
Right.
What's the beginning? If you've been to a play, there's a prologue or overture.
Okay.
That's what Jacobs Blake is. It's an overture. It's a prologue. It sets the tone for the rest of the album. And then
Interesting.
it gives you a couple of different varieties of, how do we still incorporate this message and stay on the same path?
Right,
So
right.
everything's very intentional.
Well, we need to start playing this at our protest. We're going
Go
to start
ahead.
off with Jacob Blake.
Oh, I got some other ones you might like.
I mean, I think it's important because
Yes.
what we're trying to do is reprogram. Because music is already programmed to think a certain way, to do certain things. What David's doing, he's bringing it back the opportunity to think
Right.
and to get that thinking to change.
That's right.
And that's where I like to think that's where he and the band is headed. I mean, the music is one thing, but we're out there in the community too. So
Right.
I mean,
More than a band.
That's
Yes.
right.
Because
That's right.
there's so many bands that don't do much public interaction, really, for real. Except, hey, are you gonna hit my tip jar?
Right.
And, which is important,
Right.
but
Yep.
what are you walking away with after you leave that show? How do you feel after that? Beyond that, what's needed in the community beyond your instruments and your gift?
Exactly.
Can you get dirty?
Exactly.
Can you get down and clean up a neighborhood? Can you be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem?
Right.
Or just another piece wafting in the wind like
Right.
everybody else.
Well, part of that transforming the mind is, walking, the walk.
Right.
Right. So I think that's a wonderful, point that you make. And so where have you already played in the Buffalo community? Or, just overall, and how can, people continue to listen to you?
How long is this show?
Oh, about an hour.
Okay, well, you have enough time
We
to
got some
list.
time. Yeah.
Well, in Buffalo, I've played everywhere. Like I said, everybody probably would have known me better as Teaspoon,
Okay.
just because it's a nickname. And like as I stated, I was looking to destroy that nickname at one point just because I'm ready to take my rightful place. And my name is David Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, that's a stage name. I'm like, no, it's actually my real name. But with that name, I've played and started so many bands and played every major space you could think of here, from the 12th
Okay.
to the Ironworks to the Colored Musicians Club,
Nice.
festivals here. I've been working in and out of Buffalo for years, but then, I have a international career too, as I've gone to teach blues classes in Colombia, South America.
Okay.
I've been on tours with other artists all over the world. I've been to 30 countries.
Wow. Okay.
So I've been very blessed in that. I'll say that as a conceit, as and not so much even as an achievement as, I've been here all this time. But sometimes when you're not supposed to be the chosen one, then people tend to forget or one-dimensionalize you.
Mm-hmm.
To be just this person. You're just a
Right.
drummer. And that's it.
I was going to ask you, how many instruments do you play?
I play 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, name them all for me.
Okay.
We got time, right?
Yes, we do.
Drums. Drums is always a go-to because it's where I started.
Okay.
Drums, piano, trumpet, trombone, saxophone, guitar, and you break that up into bass and acoustic,
Wow.
singing, songwriting.
So you're a percussionist, as they say, right? That's
Yeah.
'cause piano is percussion.
That's a fact. There you go.
And
Guitar is
that's all I know, though.
Guitar is part of guitar is part of
I
rhythm
don't know
section too.
much.
So
Good. Okay.
and I didn't master all of them, but I was hungry to start trying to learn them all, learn their structures, because I wanted to compose songs. I wanted to write masterpieces, and I wanted to understand each instrument's position in the song, so that when I went, I say, okay, I understand what you're doing. How about you go here? Try a B flat instead of, so I can direct that whole madness.
Did you ever do anything as far as go to school to learn any of those instruments, or for music at all, or for our young people, how would they do what you're doing now?
Pick up an instrument.
Okay.
Drums was easy for me, but my grandfather, he was really the one that got me so motivated into music, because he was a blues pianist. He would have instruments laying all around the house.
Okay.
So I just decided on one and just kept going at it. And he would come over and say, okay, we'll try this chord instead. And then I said, oh, okay. And I didn't understand completely, but I knew it sounded good. And so I learned by ear until I got to performing arts.
Okay.
I went to Arts Academy when it was back on Clinton.
Hey, my alma mater. I
Yeah,
went
there you go.
too.
Look at that.
Yes.
So went there, and that's when I learned to apply what I already self-taught to understanding now theory and, all these different aspects of performance even that I didn't really understand before.
Nice. Very nice. Do you think, what impact, now, because I went to performing arts too now.
Right.
So,
Now we got stuff to talk about.
let me see. What impact do you think performing arts as having a community of artists, of different capacities and dancers and actors and musicians and so on. How do you think that affected what you do now?
Well, definitely, it showed me that it showed me everybody's wonderful gift and talent, and then they would put us in situations where we all had to work with all the departments, as you probably remember,
Yes.
doing shows and plays. And,
Yep.
and
Did Annie?
right, and it was it was constructed as a full blown production.
Right.
So even if you were in the audio video, you're doing audio visual.
Yes.
You're being a stage crew manager. You're getting your stripes early before you even get to a college where you're, doing it. They're teaching you how to do cut-ins and cut-outs. You're doing TV shows
Yeah.
So it showed me the overall production quality of the whole product, and not just the music. But what happens if you add some dancers in here that can liturgically describe what you're doing? What happens if you have now a team for audio crew and visual? That now you can really start to really craft your idea, because now you're thinking bigger than just, I'm going to be a band and I'm going to play.
That's it. Right. I think that that's what I really enjoyed too about performing arts is that, for example, I went for dance, right? But even though we had a performance, we had and behind us we had waters flowing, or we had artistic media doing all kinds of stuff behind us, and then you had a live band that we danced to, and then so everybody so it was a nice mix media to bring about the idea, and that's what I hear with your music. Is there another piece that you would like to share with us?
Sure.
At this point.
So we can go to the one that everybody loves, which is Crawfish and Jambalaya. It says C and J.
Okay.
It's the first one.
Okay.
And this one is based off of, the Louisiana feel, down on Bourbon Street, second horn line type feel.
Okay, I see the umbrellas.
Yeah, there you go.
The big,
That's it.
dresses. Okay.
That's this one.
All right, let's listen.
Crawfish and jambalaya. Crawfish and jambalaya. Crawfish and jambalaya. Crawfish and jambalaya.
Wow, that is fun. Had me already moving out of my seat. I had to I gotta stay here and ask questions, But that gets you up and moving right away. Well, how do I say it? Because in my mind, what I'm thinking about, you have so many pieces of the traditional African American experience of the South and, of course, of Louisiana, right? You have the call and response, that we usually hear in a church environment or where we hear in, protests, what have you. But, you had those basic foundations, and what is the significance of this crawfish and jambalaya?
Well, so the whole album is called 400.
Okay.
And I mean, say less. I need not even need to explain that.
No.
But my spin on it is, the 400 anniversary, the 400-year anniversary of the transatlantic slave trade. 2019. But this marks the centennial, basically, of that, all the music that we brought over, So we brought the crawfish and jambalaya to Louisiana. Crawfish and jambalaya as a dish had been closely related. They always immediately say French or Spanish even. But when you dig, you'll find that jollof rice was actually what jambalaya was.
And that is that Ghanaian traditional dish.
So
okay.
That's, to me, I'm like, okay, well, the crawfish and that, I mean, mind you, we worked off scraps.
Right.
We figured it out.
Right.
So, you take a song like Crawfish and Jambalaya and you throw them second line horns on there, that's you could taste it,
Right.
So,
yeah, you can feel it, taste it. You can, just connect to it. And, that's wonderful how you connect music with food. Because those are, I would say, two of the biggest connectors of culture and community.
Right.
And to connect, for people to hear that and they have that, hey, I know what that is. I remember when Grandma used to, or I remember my community here, or there. Especially for those who are so even removed from Louisiana in particular.
Right.
And it's still going through the disconnections of, and dealing with Katrina, hurricane and all that. So I think that's important, to help people reconnect and say you still have culture here.
Right.
Roots. You still have roots here, deep roots. And they are not all bad.
Right.
They're not all bad. And so I think that's wonderful. Where can people find your music? Are you online?
I am online. So I have a Bandcamp. You can go to www.bandcamp.com/innercitybedlam. INNERCITYBEDLAM. You can also find us on Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music. We're there. But the songs that are there are just singles right now because the album is being released this month.
Okay.
So, and that's all these songs that you've so far played are going to be on that album.
Wow, I'm excited. And where can I'm kind of old school when it comes to these albums online. So where can I get the release of the new album? How do I get to that?
Well, if you want to get the release of the album, you're going to have to come to the show.
Oh, when is the show? Tell me more about it.
So we were struggling, and I just, if you don't mind me telling this part of the story, but we were trying to figure out where the best place to do this release. And we were turned down by a couple of different places that we thought for sure is going to rock with us. For sure.
It's cool.
Won't mention any names.
Won't mention any names,
I won't mention any senior classes. I won't get anything. Oh, I'm sorry.
Next thing you know, a big thing comes on the screen says, "To be continued." We were trying to figure out.
You didn't want to be controversial.
Well, I'm a controversial writer, so I mean, and free speech is what it is. So we decided, two members of my band are the direct cousin of Officer Aaron Salter that passed away. Now, nobody could have guessed that would have, but it hurt me to have to sit there with my bros and hug them knowing that they're going to have one less person at the Thanksgiving table. You know?
Wow, yes.
So we were thinking, what's the best way that we can give back to the community? And I lived on Butler, right down the street.
Okay. Oh, wait. I hold that thought.
Okay.
And just for our audience, Aaron Salter was one of the victims
Yes.
of the massacre on May 14th at the Tops on the east side of Buffalo. So he was a former police officer, inventor, musician. From what I hear, wonderful, just outstanding, citizen
Very
and
kind.
father, brother, cousin, so on. So I just want to, make sure our
Yeah, please,
audience
yeah.
know that,
Absolutely.
that who we're talking about here, we have people that's in your band that was directly affected.
Two members. They're both
Two members.
They're both related, and so when this happened, it hit us all in the gut, and it just was like, it's one thing to hit it from the gut, and you seeing it from the outside looking in and having being sorry or having pity, or not knowing what to do in a situation. But it's more when it's a part of your people.
Okay.
You're not just my people, but
Right.
members of my group. So we thought the best way for us to pay homage in a way, because it almost even put more of a foot, because we were already writing this music before these incidents happened.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, we've already been given a charge. This even shows more why we have to continue writing these songs.
That's right.
But with that being said, we decided to talk to the Frank Merriweather Library, and after a little deliberation, they decided they would love to have, this show at the Eva Doyle Auditorium.
Wonderful. Okay.
It seats 150. We are determined to make history with this album and completely sell that show out.
Okay.
Every last seat. Because if you can look at what happened and what occurred, and then not look at this album as a correlation to where we were, where we are, and where we're going, we got some healing to do.
Wow.
And I feel like the community deserves this giant hug.
Right.
And we should do that.
That's right.
So
What
much
date?
history in that area. So
What
the
date is it?
29th. October 29th.
Wow, that's in a few
Tickets are on
weeks.
sale on Eventbrite right now. I'll make sure you have that link.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about that. So we'll make sure you go to WNYpeace.org. We'll have a link to David's event coming up October 29th at the Frankie Merriweather Library. At what time?
7 p.m.
At 7 p.m.
We're going to have you out of there by 9.
Wonderful. I'm
beautiful.
so excited. It's right in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
Is, of course, across the way, from such a significant, place, for us. And I would love to see all the community out, coming out, and especially you students, Buffalo State College students, and
Come on, Buff State.
right, and everyone coming out. That sounds wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
So you'll be playing some of this music we just heard.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, it tells the whole story. We have an 8-piece band.
Okay.
So we're talking horns. We're talking
oh my gosh.
vocals. We're talking me. I'm on the drums and I'm
Was
singing.
that you on the vocals?
That was me.
Here, Crawfish.
That's me.
All right now. I was just like, who is that him singing?
That's me.
He said he sound good. Okay. All right. Sound great.
Thank
I
you.
mean, absolutely. What else would you like the audience to know about why you do what you do?
I think that we've been so used to hearing music. We've been programmed to believe that, I always use this example that Sex Machine came out 50 years ago. And it came out 50 years ago not for us to stop there.
That's
It was
right.
meant to inspire so that you can be creative to take it to the next level.
Right.
How do you take it to the bridge? How do you go to the next area? And so I encourage people to please, you listen, you're going to hear covers all the time. They're not going anywhere. But I'm saying go challenge yourself to listen to music you've never heard. Go challenge yourself to listen to artists that you've never, don't stick to the same group of people that you're so used to hearing that you don't know. Some people don't even know how to find new music because they're so used to the habit of going to click the same thing.
Right.
It's just it's rinse, repeat. and they won't go listen to anything else or challenge themselves to listen to anything else other than what they're hearing.
Well, I think that's a good point because I think that, we get, comfortable, like you said. We get like in a box and say, okay, this is what motivates me.
Right.
But, like I love jazz. I never thought about listening to like Louisiana, like if I'm watching a movie or something, or if I'm
like
listening.
R&B?
Like, yeah, I love R&B,
Got that on
So it
there
has
too.
a little bit of, all
Everything.
those elements in there, and I love not the poetry, you didn't do poetry, but what's the word? The points of media.
Yeah.
Like, bringing out speeches or what
Right.
people, to music. To me, I'm thinking of poetry, like that's how I would see, poetry, kind
We'll
of
be
come
having that
out.
in there too. We sprinkle that in
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm having some ideas.
there. Now, if you like,
We
if you
have our
like
annual
R&B,
dinner coming.
if you like R&B with that kind of soul, the song I have on there called "Simple Love Song."
Okay.
That's I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Wait,
Paul.
but you gotta tell her.
Oh, yeah, I'm about to tell you.
Okay,
Okay.
you got to tell her.
All right.
So
This makes the song bang.
So in the 70s,
Okay.
and even, well, I'll say mid 60s to late 60s, Martin Luther King is going out here marching on bridges, marching for freedom, trying to get people. Rosa Parks is saying, I ain't getting off the bus. Malcolm X is going through everything he's going through with his transition after the Hajj. And, during all this turmoil, when they're releasing dogs on people, all of this pain and suffering and segregation, that Martin still had 4 kids.
Right.
And Malcolm had 6.
Wow. Okay.
So you would dare to believe how in a time so tumultuous and racist as it was, what kind of woman must you be with that can soothe the savage beast,
Wow.
and you still bear your children? And that's what this R&B song is dedicated to. Is
Wow. That's a deep
times
thought.
like this.
And let's not forget Chairman Fred Hampton.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Same thing.
Yes, in the prime of his life, his wife at that time was pregnant.
Pregnant,
wasn't she?
Yeah.
that's right.
Wow, and we have that
Yes.
that sample
Yes.
here. Okay, let's listen to it. And Simple Love.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's times like this.
I love you more than words can explain. Without you, babe, I feel so lame.
I'm so lucky without you.
I know I'm going out of my mind. This song just makes me wanna spend all of my time with you. I'm thinking of you and all that you do. This is just a simple love song. Thinking about you and all that you do. This is just a simple love song.
Give a love.
Late night conversations on the phone.
Shit, you know I get up in the morning. I gotta work.
Makes me not wanna be alone.
I
That got you.
Wow.
That got you.
Yes. Yes. That's
Her
all I can
eyes
say
were
is
closed. He was
yes.
like,
You know, wow. You know, my husband and I been together for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Since 95, 96, something like that. And, you know, it because, and given the background, you know, you're not just listening to a simple love song, you know, like you're thinking about how much on both ends, you know, because even though, you know, we see the men, the man, you know, out there, you know, in the protests, what have you, like, you know, whether it's, you know, King or Malcolm, their wives were just as active,
Absolutely.
you know, in their rights. And even, you know, Du Bois' wife, you know, and, you know,
think about all of them.
Gandhi's wife, like, you know, they were very, you know, politically active or active in the arts or, you know, socially active in different ways, and moms, and, you know, and thinking about how much you bear and you bring all that back home, you know, and
It's a lot to bring home.
that's a lot,
Yeah.
you know, on everyone's shoulders. And then the children get it all, you know, because you're humans. So they get all the teachings,
Right.
they get all the preachings, you know, they get all the weight. Like, that's why you must,
Right.
you know, be the Lion King, you know, like, you know, that's why you have to, you know,
You must be the Lion
transform,
King.
you know,
Yeah.
you know, you have to be the best, you know, because we see, you know, all these things in the world, and this is what we're, you know, struggling against, you know, oppression and
Right.
and racism and so on. And you know, I really, you know, relate to that. Like I said, especially understanding where those thoughts, the lyrics are coming from.
Right.
I'm not just thinking about, oh, you know, it's just, you know, a typical R&B.
Right.
I'm thinking about Malcolm X and his wife. You know, I'm thinking about King and Coretta.
Right.
You know, Martin and Coretta.
Right.
You know, after everything, the circus is done, it's just Martin and Coretta.
Right.
You know, it's just, you know, so you just, you know, you think about that you're still human and you still, you know, need that connection. Go ahead.
I was going to say that, like, the phone conversation just makes me think of Malcolm and Betty.
Right.
Because I always feel like that's how Malcolm was like, I'd rather be there, but I've got to do this. And she said, that's cool. I'm going to hold down the house. I got the kids.
Right.
So, you know, we talk about black people in general. If it weren't for black women, I don't think we'd be sitting here today.
That's a fact.
Because, you know, it took these women to keep these men strong. Because it'd been easy for the outside world to break them down.
Right.
And then come home to what? So for them not to give in to the outside forces of, you know, now I got to rule, I'm just going to come in hard. That these women had to bring them in. Hey, baby, come on. Give me time to nurture you. Let me give to you what you're trying to give to your people. And so these women, I think the song is like it's an appreciation song for the sisters who helped these brothers. So I mean, I just think when he told me that, I was like, oh,
You got a whole new thought, right?
oh
It's
my
like,
God.
I was like, I can play that, at the end of the day, you know, because again, it's, you know, not regular R&B is fine, you know, but when you have context, I think it gives it a whole nother meaning for you.
Right.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, or let me send this, you know, my husband and I, you know, would send different music to each other sometimes throughout the day. Like, this is what I'm thinking about you, you know,
Right.
and, you know, to send that and to say, okay, this is what probably Malcolm and Betty talked about, you know, like, what do you, you know,
Right.
do you,
Right.
you know, read it, you know, connect, you know, to that after we've, you know, did an educational seminar, and after we, did a rally, and, can we, relax and connect, just to each other and to be intellectually stimulated still at the same time, because that's another thing, that these brothers and sisters, need when they come home, right? That affection, that intellectual connection, and, I trust you, and I accept you for who you are.
Right.
I mean,
That's nice.
When do I stop being a freedom fighter? When can I just be a man?
Right.
Right.
Amen to that. That's just, wow. So this is absolutely wonderful. We'll also be hearing this song in full
Absolutely.
on October 29th at the
Yes.
Frankie Merriweather Library on Jefferson Avenue. Look on his website for details for that. And we are almost out of time, but I do want to play one more song. Can you give us a little more background?
Well, this is probably considered to be my most controversial song.
Okay.
For the mere message of me addressing the topic of white privilege. And I thought, how do I talk about this? Because the very name or the topic makes a lot of people act viscerally because they, it's not a thing to make people like to pretend it doesn't exist. They have a cognitive dissonance that makes them believe that, no, that's not happening. And, one day I was literally driving my car and I'm just looking, a guy pulls up next to me and he's blasting like some gangster hip hop that's like not gangster hip. Now, I can still give it even a little bit of credit to some gangster hip hop because for certain things that they were going through and growing up. But I mean, like, I'm talking about this is like the 808s hitting, boom, boom, boom. I mean, and this dude is like and he got his hat on backwards, but he's coming from East Amherst, and I'm like, you couldn't relate, like, now that's not for me to knock his experience, but then as I'm looking at other people in that community, I'm like, man, what does it feel like to be free? Because you have this experience of being free that you don't even realize how free you are and how less freedom we have and have had. And we've not been able to, it's like you standing on a giant's shoulders and still can't see as far as you like to because the freedom is still unattainable. It's like you're still trying to grab and reach for it. So I wrote this song called White Privilege.
Okay.
And, when it hit, here it go.
Okay. So we're going to end our show with this song. I'd like to thank you so much for listening to Talking Peace. And we have been Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center and David, Jonathan, and the Inner City Bedlam.
That's right.
Band. And make sure you go to WNYpeace.org to, get more information about the Peace Center, and we'll have information about the band on there as well. And, what's coming up is our 55th annual dinner, November 11th at 5 p.m. We'll be at UB Hayes Hall, 403 Hayes Hall. 403 Hayes Road, I'm sorry. And our keynote speaker is Leah Penniman. She is the co-director and co-founder of Soulfire Farms, which is a community of Black and brown individuals in New York State. And so she'll be speaking on farming and environmental justice and land legacy. And so come out and, just hear her wonderful, she's a wonderful educator and workaholic as far as, in the farm. And she's always, everything I look at when it comes to farming and herbalism and, connecting to the environment and so on. I see her name and I see Soul Fire Farm. So, so she'll be our keynote speaker. We'll have wonderful food. And so go to WNYpeace.org to learn more information about that. And can you give us your information again for Spotify and where else people can hear your music?
Yes. So on Spotify, it'd be easier if you go to the search and type in Inner City Bedlam. You can go to Instagram as well, Inner City Bedlam, at Inner City Bedlam. Facebook as well, at Inner City Bedlam. Bandcamp, Inner City Bedlam.
All right.
We are also doing our first annual Inner City Bedlam Turkey Drive, where we are raising 400 turkeys is our goal to commemorate the album, 400.
Okay.
That's going to be going on November 19th. We have already participants from Tops, all these Wegmans that are participating. For people who want to call donations in, they can do that. They can contact us at innercitybedlam@gmail or innercitybedlam@iCloud. If you are interested in donating for families that are in the inner city who are less off or, have less than us, we want to make sure that they have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Paul. Thank you, David. I really enjoyed you all being here with us today. And we're going to end our show with listening to, what's the name of the song?
White Privilege.
White Privilege. All right, here we go. Thank you for listening.
Nope.
That was still a nice intro, wasn't it?
It was. It was.
Here we go. Okay.
To be free, can you please tell me? Ain't no guarantees, but in a world so white and everything looks bright, I guess it's real easy to lose sight. I'm like Black Lives Matter, they be getting madder. My people dying daily as the Black lives shatter. Politicians rich and leaving nothing for the children. Abandoned buildings and the killers never seem to stop. So how do I tell the difference between a good and bad cop when the undertaker's digging them land plots for the souls of the unheard? Y'all tell me a good word, your job is to protect and serve, but I guess not. Fear hits the soul when a man's being told, can you please pull over to the side of the road? But when you get pulled over, it's just have a nice day. Take it easy, slow down, everything will be okay. White privilege, I know you see me, I know you feel me, but still don't hear me, don't hear me screaming. White privilege, I know you see me, I know you feel me, but still don't hear me. Pulled over 5 times in 5 nights, over license plate night lights, put on the ground in the South towns, headed homebound. Now how does that sound? Instead of shackles, can a king get his crown? They said, water down your brand and try not to offend, 'cause
Sorry. Okay. I forgot about the buzzer. I was looking for my time. I'm like, I know